Hello, welcome to Guns and Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I am your host. I'm joined by my good friend Trevor Hilsey, as you all know him, and an Arsenal legend, European Cup winner, League winner, and FA Cup winner, Alan Smudge Smith. Welcome to the show, everybody. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. This is your Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening, everybody. This is Guns and Yellow Ribbons. We're talking to Alan Smith, player number 613 for Arsenal, who played for England, Leicester and Arsenal. Arsenal from 87 to 95. His first game was at Highbury in 1987 and played against Liverpool. Trevor, are you looking forward to this? Take yourself off mute. You're obviously very excited.
Look at me. This is me for you, isn't it? Yeah, I'm obviously very excited. It's a pleasure to talk to Alan. I've spoken to him electronically before, but never been able to talk to you. Alan, twice a Golden Boot winner, top scorer for our club in numerous seasons. I've lost count. Welcome to the show, mate. It's a pleasure to have you here joining us.
No, my pleasure, mate. No, happy to take part. No worries.
So, just want to start. When it was a strange situation, wasn't it, when you joined the Arsenal from Leicester, Alan? In that you were actually loaned back to Leicester till the end of the season, and the season didn't end so well at Leicester. Did that affect you at all? What was going through your mind at that stage, playing for Leicester, but knowing you were coming to Arsenal at the end of the season?
It was a strange situation, and really, I shouldn't have allowed it to happen. Arsenal got the best of both worlds, really, in terms of securing my signature instead of waiting till the end of the season when I would have been a free agent and I would have been in a stronger position. And of course, Leicester, they've got the money, but they've also got me till the end of the season. So, I was a bit naive, got manipulated a little bit, maybe. I went back to Leicester, and I really wanted to help them stay up. We'd had 4 good years in the top flight, and unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But of course, the big game during that run-in was when I had to go to Highbury and play against my parent club, which was a bit of a nightmare. I tried to get out of it, but my manager at Leicester, Gordon Milne, he wouldn't let me because he said, we need the points, Alan. We desperately need the points. So I dreaded that, really. I remember going down the Holloway Road on the coach and thinking, oh, God. And then I walked up the corridor and I glanced into the home dressing room and I could see Kenny Sansom, and then he popped up and he did some up with the tickets because he was captain, and he nodded at me, But I couldn't wait for the match to end. We got thrashed. I nearly scored at the at the North Bank. Reece Wilmot was the keeper that day. He pulled off a blinding save, but both sets of fans sang my name. I mean, first it was the Leicester ones. I've turned around and waved to them, and then the North Bank thought, oh, well, he's our player. We're going to sing his name as well. So I turned around and clapped them. Got a bollocking off one of my teammates, but when the final whistle went, I was fairly pleased.
I bet you was, mate. Listen, just before we go on, Alan, I'm just gonna a lot of what we're gonna talk about and ask you about tonight is from I've read your book twice, mate, and it's told me so much about you that it's given me a great pleasure to try and expand on some of it. But anybody out there, if you get a chance to pick Alan's book up, fantastic read, absolutely fantastic read. But I just want to go back to, because is it right, Alan? You went from non-league Alvechurch straight to Leicester, didn't you? How did you find that, going from non-league to the top level?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing at the start was the full-time training, because at Alvechurch it was Southern League Midland and it was a good standard, but we were training Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then all of a sudden it's full-time, and that took me a couple of months to adjust physically, but obviously, then as you're training with much better players, which I enjoyed, and it makes you up your levels. And that first season I played, it was in the second division, and we got promoted in my first year at Leicester. So yeah, within 12 months, I'd gone from non-league football to the top flight. So it was a big jump quickly. But yeah,
Um,
I got to
um,
grips with it.
Yeah.
Trevor mentioned he read in your book that the support of your parents and later on your wife as well. How important is that to you in the sense of like making that journey from non-league to the top, having those people behind you?
Just to specify, Al, just to specify the point I saw in your book. Sorry, Fergus, but it's really important that there was a line that you wrote that said you had very encouraging parents, but not pushy parents. It was along those lines, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
that's the question, mate. Yeah, how much did that help you?
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was funny because I was at university. Well, it was Polytechnic then. When I was at Alf Church, I'd started a degree in modern languages, French, German, and Spanish, and I wasn't really enjoying it too much. It wasn't so much the course, but it sounds funny now. But I think I was only one of two boys doing that course, so I hadn't had a chance to kind of make some mates, and do what you do as students. And I was living in digs, which weren't the best. I was late applying, so I was in a box room in the outskirts of Coventry. So when Leicester offered the chance, 4-year contract, I was always going to take it. And to be fair to my mum and dad, and sometimes parents say, "Oh no, you've got to do your education. That's important." But they knew how much I wanted it, and they knew I wasn't enjoying it at Coventry. So, and it wasn't a big gamble. It's a 4-year contract, so they were very supportive. And right through my schoolboy years, quite often my dad was working. He worked long hours sometimes. Mum would take me on the bus, and yeah, they weren't those kind of parents you'd hear shouting from the touchline. My dad wasn't like that. We've all seen the dads bawling at the kids, haven't we?
Yeah.
But Dad wasn't like that. He'd maybe say one or two things in the car on the way home, just little gentle bits of advice. But yeah, that helped me. I think they were always supportive.
And when you look at games like even at Leicester and Arsenal, pre-match rituals, they were talking about some of people's pre-match rituals on, I think it was Match of the Day or something like that. It might have even been the Ireland-England game that I watched over the weekend. Did you have any?
In terms of getting changed, I always got changed in a certain order. I'd always pop off to the toilet beforehand to read the programme, sit in there. But yeah, get changed. And also the suit that you wear to the ground, sometimes if you'd won and scored a couple of goals, you'd wear the same suit the next time. I wasn't massively superstitious. I tell you, it was.
Yeah.
David O'Leary was hugely superstitious. And, he'd always, just before the bell went, or when the bell went, tell you to get out into the tunnel, he'd reach into his jacket pocket of his suit and kiss his cross. And then you'd be walking down that very narrow tunnel, and all of a sudden he'd bend down and fiddle with his laces, and you'd bump into him and there'd be a pile up. It was just a bit of a nervous fiddle he'd do. But yeah, it was little things with me. Just, at home, same, maybe breakfast and bits and bobs like that. But I didn't get obsessed with superstitions, I don't think.
I've got 3 goals here I want to show you, and just tell me which was your favourite. It was Norwich, Southampton, and Palace. Let's have a look at these here. We can ignore the music. You can just talk through them if you like.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed that one. That's for certain.
Do you remember them all, Alan?
I do. Yeah, well, not every goal, but I remember these. I know what the Palace one's like. Yeah, it was kind of a little bit fortunate. This I didn't really catch it, and it just happened to clip the underside of the bar. But by far, my favourite was the Norwich one. Lukey, he's punted it upfield, and I've backed him into my marker, and I've kind of got a touch on it on my chest and swiveled in one movement and hammered it with my left foot. And as soon as I connected with that, I thought, oh, I've caught that sweetly. And it's absolutely flown past the keeper. And also, that was my first game back. And it was Arsenal's first game back after the break for Hillsborough. So it was a big game. And I had been out as well with my fractured cheekbone, which I did in training. So that was my first game back. So to get a goal like that, I got another goal that day as well. But yeah, that's one of my favourites in my career, to be honest. That Norwich one.
You
Brilliant.
talk about players and like going through barren spells and so on. How much does that get in your head if you're not scoring as a striker?
Yeah, it probably got in my head more than it should have, and maybe more than other people who've got perhaps a bit more, I don't know, self-belief, perhaps. I'm not talking about 2, 3, 4 games, but if you go in over 10 games, then, I'd start to worry a bit. And it happened to me on a few occasions. Then you tense up and start snatching at chances, and things can go from bad to worse, but you just got to keep going and play on and hope the goal comes pretty soon. But yeah, I was when I was in a scoring run. Every chance I thought I was going to tuck away, and it can feel like the opposite when you're not scoring. But you try and get out on the training ground and just sharpen your technique and hope that it returns.
You scored.
Ferg,
Go on,
I'm
Trev.
sorry.
Go.
Just before you move on, I know you're going to go on to 89 in a second,
Not
Ferg, and
yet.
ask Alan. But just before you do, I just want to ask you about someone. Not many Arsenal fans will know this name, but I knew of him. I'd seen him around the stadium. A great character, Alan. When you went to the Arsenal, how did you find Paddy Galligan? I mean, I looked upon him as a kid as a hero. I was a lucky man. He was Mr. Arsenal, wasn't he? How did you see him as a player when he first went? By the way, people, you're not sure. Paddy Galligan was like Mr. Arsenal. He did just about everything at the club, didn't he, Alan?
He was a do-it-all man. He was always there. And do you know what? The first time my family came across him, I'd signed for Arsenal, and my mum and dad, they didn't tell me, but they decided to have a drive down to Arsenal to get their route sorted out. This was in the summer of '87, and they went down with their good friends. And they've eventually found their way down to Highbury, and they've knocked on the door in Avenel Road, the main entrance. It was in the summer, and Paddy's answered it. And they've said, "Oh, hello there. We're Alan Smith's parents. He just signed for the club." And Paddy says, come in, come in." He's shown them all round. He's gone in the dressing room with them. They've gone into the big bath and had a picture taken when we used to have a big bath there. So when they came back and had told me, I think they thought I'd be annoyed with them, but they said, "Oh, and this man, he was wonderful." But yeah, he was just a part of the furniture, Paddy. Whenever you were there, he was there. He always had a smile on his face. Half the time, he had such a strong accent. Half the time, we couldn't understand what he was saying. Maybe he'd had 5 pints of Guinness as well. That might have had something to do with it. But yeah, he was. We all loved him. We all loved Paddy.
Trevor's normally like that with me after I come out of the woodbine before a game. He doesn't understand a word I say. Listen, you scored 115 goals over 347 games. Your first goal was against Pompey. Henty, who's a Finnish guy, he knows everything about Arsenal. He asks, do you remember your hat-trick against Pompey in that 6-0 win? Yeah. Both Nicholas and Hayes were axed from the lineup due to a poor start to the season. You recall that?
I do. I mean, your first goals for Arsenal, so that it's big, and to get a hat trick is amazing. I remember, he dropped. I remember George sitting us down on the grass before that game. We hadn't got a win in 3. We'd lost at home to Liverpool on the opening day. Then we had QPR and Man United. I think we lost and drew one of them. I don't know how the sequence went, but we'd had a bad start. So this was a big game, and he dropped Charlie Nicholas and picked Perry Groves to team me up front. The first goal, came from a mistake. I think Graham Ricks nicked the ball off the keeper, I think, Alan Knight, and I've just stabbed it home, and I think it's gone through somebody's legs. It was a bit lucky, but that settled me down, and that was in front of the North Bank as well, so that was nice. And then I got another two, so it was brilliant, because even after 3 games not scoring, the stories in the paper. I remember picking up the Sun one day, and they said, George Graham's after Kerry Dixon at Chelsea because Alan Smith hasn't settled. And you're thinking, blimey, it wasn't like this at Leicester when you haven't scored for 3 games. And that just showed what a big club it was and the extra scrutiny and pressure on you to perform.
You scored and assisted in the greatest ever game of football, is what somebody said to me when I was talking about you in Anfield in 1989. Talk to us about 89. Trevor, you wanted to ask a few questions on that.
Yeah, no, do you know what? I don't need to ask questions. I'm just happy to listen about 89. How did the week building up? I mean, I tell you, I've been forever jealous of the people that went, Alan. I'm going to be honest with you here. There's no bigger Arsenal fan than me, but I didn't think we could do it, mate, at Anfield that week. I honestly didn't. I had 2 young kids, so I couldn't go all the time. I was bringing my young kids up, and I didn't even look for a ticket. Not that I'd have got one, because I thought I'm going to watch it on the TV and be possibly disappointed at home. But obviously, George Graham thought very differently, didn't he? How did he take you into the game, Alan?
I mean, he gave the impression that he was confident. Whether he actually was deep down, I don't know. But I remember there was a break between our last home game against Wimbledon, which we drew 2-2, and we thought we'd cocked it up. We, messed our chance up. There was a break between that and then the Liverpool game. So we had a week or so of training, and he kept it light, 5-a-sides and that, which he wouldn't normally do. Kept the mood light. And then when it came to the day, I mean, I remember when we worked out that we had to beat them by 2 goals. I was at the football writers' dinner in Park Lane, and Liverpool were playing West Ham, and the score was coming through. Yeah, Liverpool are 1-up, 2-1, 2-0 up, 3-1 up, or whatever. And then eventually someone said, "Oh, that means you've got to beat Liverpool by 2 goals, 2 clear goals." So we thought, oh yeah, initially you think, oh my God, that's it. But I think as we got closer to the day, we thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Nobody fancies us. I remember coming into the training ground on the morning of the day, because we travelled up on the day, and somebody I think it was Rocky, had pinned up a copy of the Daily Mirror that said Men Against Boys. Graham Souness had done a piece, I think, for them, saying Liverpool was so much more superior, the football they played and all the rest of it. So that wound us up a bit. But yeah, we went up there laughing and joking, relaxed really, and we went into our hotel where we had some luncheon, and then we all went to bed. And quite often on a match day, you don't really sleep, you're tossing and turning a little bit, but everybody came down for tea and toast, and they'd all slept well. Everyone was quite relaxed. But I always say George gave 2 brilliant team talks that night, first at the hotel and then at the ground, to just put it in our minds what he expected. And he always emphasised the clean sheet. If we keep a clean sheet, we've always got a chance. If we concede one, it's all over, really. And when most people are thinking, "Oh, we've got to get a goal, we've got to get a goal," so from that point of view, I think it was a stroke of genius from him, and he picked a back 5 as well, of course. And we're thinking, we've got to score 2 goals, and he's picking a back 5. We thought he'd gone mad, but he wanted to keep John Barnes and Ray Houghton quiet and push Lee and Nigel onto those 2.
Were you slightly, because we had to score the 2 goals, and was the pressure type of off because it was expected that Liverpool would probably win it? Like Trevor said, he didn't expect us to win, and yeah, we did. But was the pressure off you guys?
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yeah, as I say, nobody expected us to win. I mean, Merce, when he was gambling like mad, he knew the exact odds. So I don't know if it was 20. No, it was some ridiculous odds. Well, certainly to beat them by 2 goals. So we were able to go there and play with a little bit of freedom. I mean, listen, it wasn't a great game. There's no doubt about that in terms of free flowing, lovely football play. It was as tense as you like. and not many chances created in that first half. Boldy had a headed chance, which was cleared off the line. But yeah, I think we thought, he sent us out really pumped up. He stood by the dressing room door and shook everybody's hand, which again, he never did. He never used to do that. But I think he realised we were on the brink of making history. 18 years since we'd won the title, Arsenal. So yeah, it was. He set us up. He set us up brilliantly for it.
And talking about George Graham, well, actually, just talking about some of the people that you played and had your career with Arsenal. You got Rocky, you got Kevin as well. Kevin is a good friend of our show. He's been on here a few times, and we've been on with Sophie and the Highbury Squad and Kevin Campbell. So you got Rocky, Kevin Campbell, and George Graham. How talk to us a bit about them. Like, Trevor, you talked about on the notes that we have on here. You had a bit that you read on Rocky, and it brought a tear to your eye again when you were reading it.
Yeah, well, knowing how close your relationship was with David Rocastle, if you don't want to talk about it, mate, I would be fully accepting of that, because I know you were very close. But I've never known a player so adored by a set of fans as David Rocastle is by the Arsenal fans. They'll never forget. They'll never let anybody forget David Rocastle. So how did your friendship build, mate? Are we allowed? Do you mind talking about that? I mean, because
Yeah, I mean, I do get a bit emotional still, but I remember first meeting him. We were at the Hilton Park Lane. There was an end of season dinner, and this is the first time I've met all the lads. This is the summer of '87, and we're sat there with wives and the players and wives, and then Rocky comes along. I mean, he's 18, I think, at the time, or something like that. And he introduced himself to both me and my wife, Penny, and said, my name's David. If there's anything you need, please ask. Welcome to the club. And such a well-spoken lad. And when he went off, we thought, blimey, what a lovely lad. And we became friends from the off. But yeah, I mean, what a player. I always say he had the skill of a Brazilian and the heart of a lion. We had both attributes, and it was a knee injury that was never done properly and restricted him. He always had fluid on his knee. But those first few years, it was an absolute pleasure to play with him. But we're still friends with the family now. They all came to us a couple of weeks back. So yeah, he was a special boy. He really was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certain things that the Arsenal have done in I'm 62, Alan, so I'm about your age. I think I'm about 5 years younger, aren't I, to be honest? But
no, you're about 6 months younger.
But there's certain things that the Arsenal have done over the years that make me smile, and David Rocastle's goal at Man United still makes me smile to this very day, every time I see it. But sticking on 89, something I read, and I don't know if it's true, Alan. Well, I hope it's true. It was in your book. But why was your lovely wife, Penny, the only wife and girlfriend at Anfield in 89? What happened to all the other wives and girlfriends then?
No, Lee Dixon's wife was there because she was sat by Penny. Right. I don't know why the others weren't there. They maybe like you, they thought we weren't going to do it. But
Thanks for reminding me of that.
Penny, she was a beauty therapist at the time, and she travelled up with some good friends of ours, and her friend Claire. She was a beauty therapist. They worked at the same place, and they block booked the afternoon in with appointments, which were false appointments, so they could scarper and jump in the car. But they got stuck on the M1 or M6, and she sat down. She sat down just at the end of half time. She turned around to our family friend and said, "Oh, how's it going?" He went, not good at all," because he hadn't. Given we got to get 2 goals, we hadn't really threatened their goal too much. So, yeah, she only saw the second half, but she saw the important bit.
Yeah, lovely. Oh, I've lost my track now. See, I'm that nervous about talking to you, my friend.
He's not ignoring you. He's got a screen behind him. That's his problem as well.
I'm looking to the left here, and I'm looking to the left, trying to pick up on that. So, yeah, after that game, what happened in that dressing room? I mean, because in those days it was a Friday night. They showed us the game on ITV, and then 2 seconds, about a minute after it's finished, it's gone. There's no
I know.
interview, no celebrations.
No.
It was a travesty. Because I mean, I'm not going to name any companies' names because I know that we watch them all and that. But for me, the greatest end to any league season from 2024 going back to as long as I can remember, you'll never beat that at Anfield that night, will you? What's your view on that?
No, I don't think you will ever beat it, and I'm not being biased. I just think the fact was that there'll never be another situation where the two teams capable of winning the title go head to head. Not only that, on the last day of the season, not only that, I mean, it wasn't the last day of the season, was it? Because everyone else had finished, so it was beyond the last day of the season. So the Premier League would never allow two teams to play after the rest of them have finished. And, you know, obviously people talk about Aguero, Man City and all the rest of it, but QPR, you know, they're fighting relegation. City are at home. QPR gone down to 10 men. I mean, do me a favour. I mean, we used to celebrate getting a throw-in at Liverpool. You know, they won the European Cup 4 times. They were a brilliant side. Nobody ever used to hardly get a kick up there. So, yeah, the two don't compare. And obviously, yeah, the way it finished, it is the most dramatic end to a league season, I think, that will ever be. No question.
I agree. I mean, for any of the younger viewers out there, and we do have some younger viewers, just as Alan said it as a player, and me as a fan, Liverpool at the time were better than Man City are today. They won European championships after European championship after European championship. They won the league. If they couldn't beat you there, they could beat you in any way they wanted. They could outskill you. They could kick you off the park. They could beat you anyway. And what the Arsenal did at Anfield that night will forever, in my mind, be the greatest performance by any football team away from home. But while I've got it in my head, then I'm going to leave Fergus to get on with it. Alan, our good mate Kevin Campbell, he watched from the stands that night, didn't he? Right. But, you know, I just want to talk about him for 30 seconds or a minute because we know he's been in our hearts recently. But I used to go as a young kid about that time, or a younger person about that time, to the Arsenal. And we didn't have all this internet. We didn't have social media or mobile phones. And I used to look in the programme every week, straight to the youth section. How many's that lad Campbell scored this week? You know, he was that prolific, you know. What was he like to train with? What was he like being around him coming up as a young lad, Alan?
Yeah, it wasn't so bad for me coming through as he was coming through, but I never forget Baldy and Tony when they heard that Kevin was coming across from the youth team to train with us. Because George wanted, you know, the defence to get tested, and you know, Baldy's going, "Oh bloody hell, not Kev! You know, we can't have a nice easy day today." They knew they were going to have to pull the finger out because, I mean, first of all, he was full of enthusiasm, wanted to make a mark for himself. He was so strong and quick, you know, so he was a nightmare. But he, as a lad, he was one of those with always a smile on his face. He got people he looked up to there, you know, people from his neck of the woods in South London, Paul Davis, they used to call Pops, because he was the senior man, obviously Rocky, Mickey Thomas. Yeah, he was a great lad. You know, he came and I partnered him, and he always wanted to learn. And what a career he went on to have. Played a big part in 1991 title-winning season. A big part. No defender enjoyed playing against him. So it's just a tragic loss. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost Rocky and Alan Miller, who was a roommate of mine. Maxie, we've lost him, and now Kev. You know, these boys. So yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah. But listen, we're coming up towards half an hour now, and I know you said you could kindly spare us half an hour, Alan. So I just thought, out of courtesy, do you need to get away now, matey, or?
No, I you know, another 15, 20 is fine, Trev.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan. Let's talk about Parma. Trevor shared his ticket from Parma, but what was really interesting on Twitter when we start leaking out that we were going to have you on, Gary Jones on Twitter, lifelong Arsenal fan, sent this through to us, which was the 3-day trip that they took from Highbury through France, Holland to Germany, having breakfast in Germany, on to Denmark, go to the game, finish the game, straight back in the bus for a day and a half again. The sacrifice that people make, you made it worth it for them because they saw this.
Smith, Dixon, acrobatics, but it comes for Smith. It's a goal for Arsenal. Alan Smith, a super strike.
Talk us through what it's like to score a European winning goal for the club. It's 30 years this year since we won that trophy. What was it like, Alan?
Well, when I scored, obviously fairly early on in the game, and you see the keeper there, Luca Bucci, he's dived and kind of masked the ball, covered the ball with his dive. So I didn't know it had actually gone in, and it was only when he'd landed and I saw the ball at the other side of the goal, you know, it hit the inside of the post and rolled across, that, yeah, I'd realised I'd scored. So it was a brilliant moment for me because I wasn't scoring anywhere near the goals that I had been used to. I wasn't particularly enjoying my football, low in confidence. So that night was a port in a storm. And, you know, it was fairly early. So against that Parma team, you thought we've still got loads of work to do here, you know. I don't think we had many other chances that night. They certainly did. We rode our luck with a few decisions. But yeah, at the end of it, it was brilliant. You know, an honour to have played a part like that in an Arsenal European victory. And you know, I can't believe that we haven't won one since. But it was an incredible night. Obviously, Wrighty was suspended. John Jensen done his crew shirts. Martin Keown failed the late fitness test. You know, and they had all those stars: Zola, Asprilla, Thomas Brolin. You know, they had half of Italy's World Cup team for that summer in the States. So they fancied themselves big time. I remember we went out to train on the pitch the night before, and they were immaculate in the tracksuits. They'd already been out there, and they looked at us walking onto the pitch and thinking, "Who's this lot?" You know, rag-ass Rovers, looking a bit less smart than they were. But yeah, it was an amazing night, really. And the back five with Dave Seaman, I think, was at the peak of its powers. Tony says that, to be fair, and he should know. He says, you know, we'd got all that experience behind us, so 1-0 to the Arsenal and all that. If you did score, you thought you've got a fair chance of winning then.
You it just came too early, Alan. I mean, what was it, about 20 minutes that goal went in? Was it about 20 minutes in?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, bad for your nerves, was it?
Oh, mate, I can still remember it now. The longest night of my life.
Yeah,
the longest night of my life. But absolutely, what a night, eh? And you're right in what you say. And it's an interesting point you made there, Alan, in that ever since then we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot in Europe, don't we? You know. I think, take last season, for instance. Last season, when we're playing Munich and we're on our way to Munich, and I'm thinking, we're good enough to beat this lot. And we actually were good enough. We just didn't seem to play at our best at the crucial moments, you know. And it seems to happen a lot over the years. But hopefully, Mikel can make changes and let's have another night like 94. Sorry, Fergus.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just going to say, George Graham and the culture that George Graham made within the club. The legacy left, which the back 4-5 that you talked about, which Wenger inherited, which I'm sure bolstered Wenger along the way in his early time at the club to win the trophies that he did, and then almost linking that to Arteta and the way Arteta came in and with his cultural views about the unconditionals. How important are those three managers have been in the club and how they impact on the culture of the club? How important is the culture of the club itself?
Yeah, of course it is. George was a big disciplinarian. I think Arsene wasn't quite that way. He trusted his players and he expected them to behave in a certain fashion. Arteta's probably a little bit more like George. But we certainly knew what was expected. On and off the pitch, he pushed us every day, George. And when we travelled, blazers, ties. We even flew to Australia with our blazers, ties on one end of season. But the old adage, remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. I think that came from Bertie Mee's time, to be fair. But he was very influenced by Bertie Mee's that attitude to discipline. And we were a team that could certainly play football. We had flair, but we could look after ourselves as well. And Trevor mentioned Liverpool, and we weren't going to be bullied up at Anfield that night. We could look after ourselves. So, yeah, three great managers, and well, Arteta can't be classed as great just yet. He needs to put some silverware on the table, but hopefully he's heading that way.
You had 13 caps for England, scored 4 goals. Recently, you were presented with your legacy cap, number 110. How does that feel?
Oh my God, what a day that was. I went up to St George's Park. I'd been asked to go up and do a Q&A for, I think they were kind of competition winners and that. And I was hanging about afterwards. We'd done it all, and all the fans, supporters had their shirts and that, and they were waiting for the players to come off the training pitch. And I was going to shoot off because I'd kind of done what I was going to do. But the lads said, "Oh, just hang on a minute." And then they called me up. There's some steps that lead up to the pitch. And John McDermott was there, who's, I don't know what his title is at the DFA. He's above the manager type of thing. And he gave me the cap. I went, "Oh, fantastic. Thank you." But then he pointed across and Declan and Bukayo were waiting kind of to officially present it to me. And I was just so touched. And the official FA photographer Eddie took those pictures, and then we just had a real nice chat. Two top lads. They didn't want to rush off or anything. They were just so nice. And I've driven away from St George's Park feeling really emotional, really, and really proud to get that cap, and especially get it off those lads. It was just a brilliant day.
Go on, Trev.
Oh, well, go on, Trevor. I've got no script.
No. You look like you wanted to say something. That's why we do this all the time.
I was sitting there smiling because Fergus is going to give me stick now, Alan. I saw young Bukayo make his senior debut. It was away in Ukraine. We were meant to be playing in a place called Poltava, and I don't know if you remember it, but the Russians started getting a bit loud across the border.
Just pause a second. Alan, when you get a granddad that says during the war and those stories, this is the Poltava story.
To cut that story short, I saw Bukayo that night come on in Kiev, and it was a freezing night, one of the coldest nights I've ever been at football. And I looked at him and I knew that we had something really special coming through the ranks, and he's not let us down, has he?
No.
How far is he going to go, Alan?
Pardon?
How good can he be, Bukayo Saka, do you think?
Well, I mean, God, he's almost, as well as a regular for Arsenal, he's for England as well, isn't he? And I mean, he delivers on a consistent basis with the goals that he scores, and obviously the problems he gives his fullback. And I'm so pleased we got a Raheem Sterling in the door as well, somebody that can take the weight off at times, because I think we all think that at times Bukayo's overplayed and he takes a lot of hits, doesn't he? And you think, oh God. So yeah, I just love it. I love him, and he's one of those players that all teammates love. I think he's just got that personality, that nature to him. You can't dislike him. But yeah, what a talent, and it's brilliant to have somebody like that come up through the academy. And he came up with Emile Smith Rowe, didn't he? And you were thinking these two together are going to be in the Arsenal team for years to come. And for different reasons, it didn't quite work out for Emile. And I think he'll do well at Fulham. He's a talented lad. But yeah, Bukayo, he can become one of the Arsenal greats, I think.
Yeah. Just conscious of time as well for you. Life after football in the media, there's a couple of questions that I've starred in here. The first one is, how do you find the transition from being a player to a pundit? And my question, probably on from that, is how do you find trying not to be biased and how to try and be neutral? Like, for example, in the Northumberland Derby, if you're commentating and being an Arsenal fan with the Derby coming up, or that that game at Old Trafford is like Fergie versus Wenger. How do you find to try and get the balance right? How difficult is that?
I'm always conscious going into the games that you've got to give 50-50 equal, comment and concern about the other team. The transition from playing to punditry, I mean, it wasn't seamless. The injury when I retired came out of nowhere practically, and I had to make up my mind what I wanted to do, and I did some writing, and then I did more and more stuff for Sky. But I think you've got to keep distance between you and your old team or teammates, and the moment for me was up at Old Trafford with Martin Keown jumping up, Van Nistelrooy, and all the rest of it. I was in the Sky studio, and when it all kicked off at the end, I criticised Arsenal, and I thought they'd stepped over the line, which I think Arsenal admitted later on. But what I did say and write that day upset Patrick Vieira and co. And I stopped writing for the Arsenal magazine because they felt I couldn't come in one day being all pally and then the next criticising. And I thought fair enough, but it gave me that journalistic integrity, if you like, and that little bit of distance, and it upset Arsenal fans. It upsets some Arsenal fans now who don't think I bang the drum enough. But I'm there to give my best to both sets of supporters watching that match. Just because I played for Arsenal, I can't be I can't
must
be
admit,
too much in their favour.
when I watch a game on TV, I'm mostly at games, but when I watch a game on TV, I like the player's perspective because they've played the game. I don't care what team they played for. Like Micah Richards, for me, one, he's entertaining, but two, I really like him. Vincent Kompany, I recall him on Match of the Day, and I thought he was a really intelligent man and really insightful about how he spoke about football, and here he has gone on into management. So I think you're right to do that. Whether people criticise you, that's their issue. But I think to do a job professionally is the right thing. Go on.
Listen, no, it's I get the ump about it a bit because as fans we moan with these pundits and commentators that clearly show their bias towards the club that they played for, the club that they've got an affinity with, and I find that Alan doesn't do that, and I like that. I think that's classy, and it shows what the Arsenal's all about. We have classy people at a classy club, and you do it exactly how I want to hear it, Alan. But to be honest, half the time you put me right off anyway, because as soon as I hear your voice, I start thinking about 89 and 91. And I'm not even bothered about the game, So I just smile. But you, mate, for me, I'm far be it from me to tell you what to do, but you keep doing what you're doing, mate. Perfect.
Well,
absolutely perfect.
Thank you, mate.
One final question, and they're both related. So James, who's Arsenal in black and white, asks, what's the first team you look out for result-wise? And Dan, who has the ump, because he's normally on here with us, he says you grew up as a Villa fan. What's it like playing against a boyhood club? Are you still a Villa fan?
Well, if I had to say, who I look for first, I look for Arsenal. Then I would look for Leicester, and then I'd look for Villa, maybe at the same time as Leicester. But yeah, I was a Villa fan growing up. I was from Birmingham, the south side, and you were either Birmingham or Villa. My dad was Villa, so yeah. But because of what I experienced, 8 years at Arsenal, they get into your blood, and. I lost a little bit of enthusiasm towards the end of the Wenger years because I don't know, nothing was happening, was it? And the atmosphere in the stadium wasn't the best. And but no, I mean it's great now. So I'd definitely say. But when I played at Villa, that was always proud because my dad was up there. Sometimes he'd get invited into a box or whatever. So to play there on my my manner, if you like, that was always proud for him to be there. And I've scored a couple of goals there as well when he's been watching. So that was great.
Yeah, my boss is a Blues, so yeah.
He's had a lifetime of misery, hasn't he?
His claim to fame. His claim to fame, and I remember it was the League Cup final when they beat Arsenal in 2010.
Oh,
And
I commentated on that. I couldn't
Can we
believe
move on from that, please, Fergus?
yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
couldn't believe
We
it.
went out for beers in Manchester last week, and he had blue and white Adidas Gazelles on, and he had the Birmingham 2010 on his trainers. I was like, you wore them on purpose just to wind me up. So
Well,
yeah, that was
they're
quite
pumping
funny.
money into Birmingham now, so they might
They
actually
are.
enjoy some better times. Yeah.
Do you actually on that? Do you understand the rules in League One? Is there no caps or something? Because the amount of money that's going into Birmingham is unreal.
No, in a word.
Okay.
I'm
No,
doing
no,
well.
no. It
I'm
was
doing well to understand it in the Premier League with the way Chelsea are behaving. So yeah, I'm not quite sure.
absolutely. Go on.
It frustrates me greatly. I don't know what goes on, Alan. I haven't got a clue. I'm just a bloke that walks to the ground every week and watches a game of football. But there's two things that frustrate me, and I'm not going to ask you to comment on them because that wouldn't be fair. But I have to say, two things that frustrate me are hearing about all this money flying around. I don't know what's going to happen to the game, how it sustains that. And secondly, I just wish players would stand up a bit more. I just wish players would stand up a bit more. It's embarrassing, you know. Going back to 89 and 91 and looking at them sides, they stood up and played football. They weren't looking to fall on the ground, you know. And sadly for me, I think there's been certain games, however many, I don't know, where the best cheats have won. And for me, that's not football, you know. That's not football. But I just got to ask you before, I know you're going to go shortly. How is that near yours, mate? Because I know it was bad at the time. Finished you prematurely, didn't it? What were you, 32?
Yeah.
How is it? Do you still suffer with it now? Are you all right with it now?
Oh, it's unbelievable, really, because I retired with my right knee, bone damage, top and bottom, and I couldn't carry on. He said, "No, you've got to pack up." But I've had my left knee straightened and resurfaced, not a replacement, but I've had that done. I've had both my ankles. I've had ankle replacements last summer and the summer before. And the knee that I retired with is still going. I won't say it's going strong, but
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But
I haven't had to have anything done to that one. So there'll come a time when I do. But yeah, I've got a bit of metal in the old legs now, but the operations have all worked well. So no, I'm fine, Trevor.
good,
You know, I can walk about. I like my golf, and I can walk the golf course no problem now. So yeah, it's all good.
good, excellent.
Alan, before we let you go, you got to give us a prediction of what you're expecting on the Northumberland Derby.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and you always used to say, form goes out the window. It's like a cup tie, but I don't know now. I think things are different, and Arsenal are obviously a few notches above Spurs in terms of where they are, and they go into it as favourites, and if we can do what we did last season, I would expect us to win there. But you don't know, do you? You never quite know. I think they're going to have Solanke back, and I think he'll be important for them if he can find his Bournemouth form. But hopefully, no Declan Rice. But yeah, hopefully the boys can see it through and bounce back, if you like, from that Brighton draw.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
Alan, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you offering your time to us, and I know you've overran what you said. Really appreciate it. Really loved it. Thank you very much, Trevor.
Okay, great to speak to you.
Listen, Anfield hero, Copenhagen 94 hero, twice Golden Boot winner, scored some goals that I will forever live in my memory. Even now, when I hear you talk, as I just said, I was going to save that line for now, so I'm going to repeat it, Alan. Even now, when I hear you on commentary or summarising, I smile. I smile because you gave me great memories, mate. And for that, I will be forever grateful. The word legend applies absolutely to you, Mr. Smith. Thank you very much, mate, for what you've done.
No, that's very kind words. Thank you, chaps. No, I've enjoyed it. And take care and all the best.
No worries.
Thank you, Alan.
Right. All the best, boys. Mate. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow, I was a bit nervous at the beginning of that. I must admit, I was a bit.
Now he's gone. I can tell you as you are. You were bloody waffling, Fergus.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I might need a beer at this rate.
What a great man, eh? Doesn't he talk well, and he's so knowledgeable, you know, and it was really important that we talked about the way Alan commentates, because I know so many Arsenal fans. I weren't going to name any names. I'm not going to name any now, but I know so many Arsenal fans that moan about ex-players from other clubs that are totally biased towards their teams, biased to a point where they're just looking for clicks, you know, and we get annoyed about that. So we shouldn't get annoyed about Alan Smith being as he is and being totally unbiased. We know he loves the Arsenal deep down, but he's on TV. He's a consummate professional, and I appreciate that, mate.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the point I was making about being professional, and when I listen to commentary, I just want to hear somebody who's actually talking sense. I don't want to hear and somebody who's interesting. Like you get Michael Owen or Owen Hargraves, and they're just boring. And I wasn't going to say that.
I wasn't going to name names tonight. I was just
but you know what you do know what I mean. You do know what I mean.
Yeah.
A couple of people have said we did come across a bit nervous. You try it. We got over about 300 people watching us right now. Like, you know, hey, listen, if you are watching us on Twitter or on Facebook, go over to YouTube, click like and subscribe. StreamYard have up their fee, so we wouldn't mind a few subscribers on YouTube. Might us get a couple of shekels in. Go on, Trev.
No, I've forgotten what I was going to say again. I'm that giddy. I'm proper giddy. I've had a great night, but. Well, Ferg, just listen, just before, while we got all these people watching, I've got to change the subject for a minute.
2 seconds. Sophie's going to watch back. Sophie, we had a little bit of a chat about Super Kev, so that'd be really interesting to hear what you think. Go on, Trev.
Well, firstly, I forgot all you lovely comments on there. I know a lot of them didn't get onto the screen. That was my fault because I got that into the moment talking that I forgot to put some of the comments on the screen. So I apologise for that. But I've got to change the subject completely. And I'm going to put it briefly. Can you keep an eye on my Twitter feed this week, please? I've actually paid for a blue tick. When I've got it, you'll find out why. I'm doing a big fundraising thing for blood cancer, something very close to my heart. So if you see it pop up on Twitter, if you can, even if you can only afford 50p, it don't matter. I'm not going to ask like all these people do for 20, 30, 40, 50 quid. If you've got a penny and you can spare it for blood cancer, very close to this old man's heart, blood cancer, I'd very much appreciate it. And I won't say any more now, Fergus, because it's not about that tonight, mate.
No, it's not. And if people do want to donate before you get your blue tick, you can scroll down my timeline. You can see it on there on Twitter. So it's Guns and Ribbons. Listen, I suppose we should play it, shouldn't we? We should play.
We've got to, haven't we? Yeah, we've got to. Right,
Trevor, we got a big game on.
Oh my lordy, yeah, massive game on Sunday, isn't it? 2:00 kickoff. We've got no Declan, but we should still be good enough. Come on, I'm going to White Hart Lane. I can't swear on here. I'm going there full of confidence. I'm going to have a great day, and you're coming. We're both going, aren't we, Ferg?
Are you booking a room?
Possibly. We'll talk about that after the show in private, because I know my good lady wife is watching right at this very moment.
I just landed you in it.
Yeah, you have deeply. Right up the chin of my beard you have. Yeah.
Right, listen, go onto Amazon or go wherever you get your books. Alan Smith, Heads Up is the name of the book. Trevor, I don't really read. I'm more an audio man. Trevor read the book while he was on holidays. If you didn't notice on his Twitter feed, he was on holidays for the last 10 days with his good wife. Yeah. And happy birthday, Donna, in the chat.
Happy 40th, Donna. Listen, right, you don't put it up again. You don't have to, Ferg. But as I said at the start of the show, for anyone that missed it, I don't like reading fiction. I don't read any fiction. I'm very much a fact man, autobiography, quite, type of person. And when I read the preface of Alan's book, one of the first things he wrote was the fact that no one wrote a word in that book for him. He had a little bit of help, obviously, but that was all his own words and his own work in that book. And I found it absolutely captivating. I've read it a while ago. And then when I was away last week on holiday, if you didn't know I was away on holiday, I read it again because I wanted to be on the ball for tonight's show. And it stood me well. So have a look and buy it. It's a great read if you like a read.
Dan still got the ump.
Yeah.
Listen,
Daniel, listen, you're meant to be booking hotels in Italy. You're not watching us tonight. Get on with the booking the hotels, please, son.
Listen, myself and Trevor, when Trevor said that we had the opportunity for this to come up, we said, yeah, we've had Dale on here, we have Alex on here, and we have Dan. And we said, it looks better with 4 if we're going to have anything on here. Who do you choose? And we just thought, well, it's difficult to choose anybody, so we'll just do it ourselves together. It probably would have been better if maybe it was just Trevor and Trevor and Alan, but especially with my waffle. Listen, I don't know when we're doing a preview show, if we are this week ahead of the Northumberland Derby. I've got my brother over from America, so I'm in London one night this week for beers with them. But I'm sure, just keep an eye on Facebook and Twitter. If anything, it'll be Thursday night, 7:00, usual thing. And we'll talk Northumberland Derby. Up the Arsenal?
Not this week. No language.
Thank
you, everyone, for watching. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ferg. But most of all, mate, thanks, Smudge.
Thank you, Alan.
Great to have you.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.